Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Cloud DevOps Era. In this video, we are going to discuss about one of the most important services provided by AWS Cloud, that is ECR. It is also known as Elastic Container Registry. Generally, we use ECR service when we are dealing with Docker, ECS, EKS services. AWS ECR is a fully managed container image registry provided by AWS Cloud. We can store, manage, and pull Docker images securely from the cloud and to the cloud. It is as similar to the Docker Hub but with strong IAM-based security, high performance, and also seamless integration with the ECS, EKS, Lambda, and code pipeline services in AWS. Before going to the practical, let's understand the concept workflow. I have my React application in my local PC, and we'll start our application and check whether our application is working fine from our local PC. And once we check that, we'll go ahead and create Docker image from the Docker file. Once the image is created successfully, and then we can containerize that image. So before doing that, we are going to log into AWS console and we'll create AWS ECR repository on the cloud. Once the ECR repository is created successfully, we can push our Docker image to the ECR repository using the AWS CLI commands. Then we can containerize our application so that we can access our application through web browser. So let's switch to the VS Code editor. So now I'm in my VS Code editor. This is my application code, and we have build folder and node modules folder, and these are the package.json files. So let's start our application to check whether our application is working fine or not. So here we can see our application is started successfully and it is running fine from our local machine. So now we checked our application that is working fine from our local machine. Now let's go to the AWS console and create an ECR repository over there. This is my AWS console. Now search here ECR. Go to ECR and click on create a repository. So now here we have to provide the repository name. I'm providing React tab. Scroll down and leave the default settings as it is. Click on create. Our repository was created successfully, and click on the repository name React tab. So to push our Docker images, we have to follow some AWS CLI commands. Here we can see we have option to view push commands. So these are the 4 commands to push our Docker image. I will explain commands one by one. So the first command is used to log into the AWS account. Requisite to run these commands that is shown here, you have to install AWS CLI. So make sure you are installed AWS CLI in your machine. Based on your requirement, you can use Windows commands and Mac OS or Linux commands. So I'm going to copy this first command. Go to VS Code, paste it over here, click on enter. It will take some time. Here you can see login succeeded. So copy this second command. So this command is used to build the Docker image by providing tag as React tab. So before going further, let's understand what is Docker about. So this is the Docker file. So Docker is a containerization platform that lets you package your application code and its dependencies to run your application. It's a lightweight and portable unit called container. You can think Docker is like a box that have application code, required libraries, runtime configuration files, environment variables, etc. Containers have everything included, so the environments stay consistent. Containers start in seconds because they are lightweight and they share the host OS, and it is portable. We can run the same container on Windows, Linux, Mac OS, AWS, Azure, GCP cloud platforms, and Kubernetes environments. It is perfect for microservices. So each microservices has its own environment setup. In the previous days, mostly we deal with the monolithic based architecture to deploy our applications. So coming to the DevOps practices, we use mostly microservices based architecture so that we can simplify the process of dealing with each service separately. Docker images can easily integrate with Jenkins, GitHub Actions, GitLab CI, etc. to use it in CI/CD pipelines. Now let's understand the Docker file. We use Docker file to create Docker image by following this set of instructions. This instructions tells Docker to how to create Docker image, what are the operations to do inside the Docker image like that. Coming to the first instruction in the Docker file, as I have React based application, I am using Node 18 as my Alpine image. We use base image as Node Alpine. Coming to the next instruction, we create work directory as app directory and we'll move into this directory. Once we move into this directory, we copy the package.json files that is present here to this app directory location. Once we copy this package.json files to this app directory location, we run npm install command. This will install necessary required packages and its dependencies of the application. Once it is completed the installation process, it will go to the copy instruction. Here we have two dots. Coming to this first dot is considered as source, which we have our application in our local. This is considered as source, and coming to the second dot, it is the destination part. Going to copy the application code that is there in our local machine, that is from source. It will paste the all application code that is copied into this app directory folder, that is destination. Once it is copied successfully, it will run npm run build command to build the production ready file. npm run build in the Docker file executes the build script inside the Docker image. Once it is run the npm run build, it will generate a build folder inside the image. Once it is completed the build process, we'll move to the next instruction. Before going further, so here we can see we have two stages in the Docker file. In this demo, we are following the multi-stage Docker build. Here we can see we have two stages inside the Docker file. This is the stage 1 and this is the stage 2. The main purpose to use multi-stage Docker build is to reduce the Docker image size for faster development and for better security as well, so that we don't have any unnecessary things in the production stage. Coming to this stage, we have named it as build stage, and this is the stage that we are going to use the build folder that is generated finally. We are using nginx image and we are going to copy this build folder that is present in the app inside the Docker image, which is there in this build stage, and it is pasting this build folder inside the nginx default location to serve our application so that we can access this application from the nginx web server. And finally, it is going to expose the port 80. Coming to the final command, we use command to run the nginx. So now let's go to the AWS console. Copy this next command to build the Docker image. It is going to build the Docker image by providing the tag name as React tag. And finally, we are providing this dot to tell that we have Docker file in this current location. Click on enter. Docker image was created successfully. So this is the next Docker command to provide the tag with the account information. So let's copy this command. paste it over here, click on enter. Now provide Docker images. Here we can see this is the first Docker image that is created while ran this command. We have React tab as the Docker image name with the latest tag, and after that we have used this command to tag our Docker image with these account details. Here we can see we have same ID of the Docker image, and we have disk usage, and this is the content size of the Docker image. So the main reason to use multi-stage Docker build is to reduce our image size and secure our Docker image. So copy this next command to push to our Docker image. Click on close. Currently we don't have any active images. Paste it over here. Click on enter. The pushing process was done successfully. Now go to AWS console, and if we refresh over here, you can see that images. So now till now we have seen how to create Docker image from the Docker file and how to push our Docker image to the ECR repository. So now let's see how to pull Docker image from the ECR. Currently I am having two images with the same ID. So now I'll delete my image is there in my local, and I'll pull that image from the ECR repository. So now let's use this command, docker rmi -f. Here we can see I am having only React app latest as my Docker image. We can use this command to delete all the images. So currently I don't have any existing images. So let's pull the Docker image from the ECR repo. Docker pull, and we can provide this same image name. Click on enter. Now here we can see the image lists. We got that image from the ECR repo. So now let's run our Docker container to check whether our application is working fine or not. Docker run -d -p 80:80, and we can provide the name to our Docker container. Provide the image name. Click on enter. Here we can see it is not copied completely. We missed the T at the end. Copying the image name. Click on enter. Here we can see we have got the ID of the Docker container, Docker PS. This is the container that we have just created. This is the ID that we have got, and it is created 9 seconds ago with the name as React. Now we'll go to the browser and we'll check whether we are able to access our application or not. Host, click on enter. So now this is the application that we have seen earlier. We can able to access this application from our Docker container. Now let's understand some more Docker commands. We use docker stop to stop our container. We can also provide these minimum characters from the container IDs so that it can understand. So now we can't able to access our application as we stopped the Docker container. We don't have any existing running containers. If we click on refresh, We don't see any application that is running. We can see all the stopped containers and running containers from this command docker ps-a. So this is the container that we have stopped earlier 3 minutes ago. We can also start the docker container again. Docker 02c. Now we set the docker ps. The container was started again. If we refresh again, we can see our container is up and running again. We can also go inside the container. We can also check the logs and our application code, etc. I forgot to explain this command. Basically, this command is used to run the Docker container in the detach mode in the background process. It is going to map the host port 80 to the container port 80, and we have provided the name of the container as reactor, or else it will get some random name, and this is our image name. So this is about this command. So now let's use this command to get inside the container. Docker exec -80, that is interactively can provide the container ID sh. Click on enter. Now we are inside our container. If we run this ls-la command, we can see these are the files and folders that is present inside the Docker container. This command is used to get into the USR folder and then share folder and then Nginx folder and then HTML folder. Inside this we have application code. Here we can see this is the index.html and this is the static folder. If we go to the static folder, you can see these are the files that is present inside the static folder. This is the index.html content. So now let's exit from the Docker container. So this is all about the ECR service provided by AWS Cloud, and we have discussed about the Docker and how the Docker image was created from the Docker file, and how we can create the Docker container and how we can access our application through the browser. So once you are done with your practical session, make sure you are deleting the AWS resources that you have created, or else you will get charged. So now in the next session, we are going to discuss about ECS service provided by AWS Cloud. So stay tuned and thanks for watching.